Shivering can increase your body's metabolic rate by up to 5 times its resting level. That means a person who normally burns 1,500 calories a day could burn the equivalent of 7,000 calories in a single freezing night. Roughly 14 hours of continuous running, except the person has not moved. They are lying under a highway overpass at 4 in the morning on cardboard, burning through every calorie they have just to keep their organs from shutting down. But sunrise does not end the crisis. It starts a new one. So how do homeless people actually warm back up? The human body does not just sit there and take a freezing night, it fights. Shivering is involuntary muscle contraction, rapid-fire flexing that generates heat as a byproduct of burning calories. And it is not a small effort. According to the National Center for Biotechnology Information, shivering can push your metabolic rate to 5 times its baseline, and in extreme cases, studies have measured increases of up to 400% above normal resting metabolism. That is the body running at redline just to hold a core temperature above 95 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the medical threshold for hypothermia. The problem is that shivering requires fuel. Specifically, it requires carbohydrate stores, the same energy your muscles use to run or lift or climb stairs. Without enough calories, the shivering reflex weakens, and when shivering stops on its own, that is not relief. That is the single most dangerous sign in cold exposure. It means the body has exhausted its ability to generate heat, and core temperature is falling toward organ failure. 25% of all hypothermic injuries and 20% of all hypothermic deaths in the United States are attributed to people experiencing homelessness. So by the time the sun comes up, the body has been running a marathon it never signed up for. Blood has been pulled away from fingers and toes for hours through vasoconstriction, concentrating warmth around the heart, lungs and brain. The person needs to warm up fast, and the first move almost always involves heat they can drink. The most common thing a rough sleeper reaches for after a freezing night is a cup of hot coffee, and medically that instinct is exactly right. The CDC recommends warm, sweet, non-alcoholic drinks as a first-line treatment for mild hypothermia. The warmth transfers directly to the stomach and digestive core, and the sugar provides immediate calories the body can convert back into heat. Shelters, churches and mobile soup kitchens serve free coffee starting as early as 5 or 6 in the morning across every major city. Dollar coffee from street vendors and corner bodegas becomes a de facto rewarming station in winter. One thing that trips up nearly everyone about cold weather is alcohol. A shot of whiskey feels warm because it causes blood vessels near the skin to dilate, flushing warm blood to the surface where nerve endings register the heat. But that same vasodilation pushes warmth out of the core and into the skin where it radiates into the freezing air. Both the CDC and the Mayo Clinic specifically warn against giving alcohol to anyone showing signs of hypothermia. It creates the sensation of warming up while actually accelerating heat loss. A hot drink raises core temperature a few degrees, but it does not fix the extremities. Fingers and toes have been cut off from normal blood flow all night through vasoconstriction, and warming them back up is where things get medically counterintuitive. The instinct when your hands are numb is to shove them under the hottest water you can find, but doing that too fast can cause something called afterdrop, where cold blood pooled in the limbs suddenly rushes back to the core, dropping the heart's temperature further and potentially triggering dangerous cardiac rhythms. The CDC and the Mayo Clinic both recommend warming the core of the body first, chest, neck, head and groin. Extremities come last. On the street, experienced rough sleepers learn this by feel. They tuck frozen hands inside their jackets against their stomachs or into their armpits, using existing core heat to slowly rewarm their fingers. Outreach teams in cities like Chicago distribute disposable hand warmers, iron powder activated packs that cost about $1 a pair, with instructions to wrap them in cloth before pressing them against numb skin. In Washington, D.C., an outreach worker described a man who lost every finger on his right hand to frostbite after a single winter on the street. In Portland, a rough sleeper named Jason described warming his hands under hot water at a food distribution centre after a night when they had gone from white to blue from exposure. So warming from the core outward is the safe approach. But the body can only reheat itself if it has fuel. After burning through thousands of calories overnight, that fuel has to come from somewhere. Shivering at high intensity is powered almost entirely by carbohydrate oxidation, according to a study published in the Journal of Applied Physiology that tracked fuel metabolism during rewarming from moderate hypothermia. When carbohydrate stores are depleted, the body switches to burning fat, but at a much lower heat output. So, a shelter breakfast serving oatmeal, bread and sugared coffee is not random comfort food. It is the exact macronutrient profile the body needs to restart its heating engine. For people who cannot reach a shelter breakfast, a $1 candy bar from a gas station provides fast carbohydrates. The body can convert to heat within minutes. 50 to 80% of caloric intake goes toward maintaining body temperature in cold conditions. That means the hot meal a church kitchen serves at 7 in the morning is not just feeding someone, it is literally keeping their organs warm enough to function. Hot drinks, safe rewarming and food get the body's core temperature climbing again. But all of that takes time, and while the body recovers, the person still needs to be somewhere warm. On the street, that means knowing where heat exists. Every city has a warmth map that only rough sleepers know by heart. Public libraries are the most reliable free-heated space in almost any American city. They are open during daytime hours, no ID required, with heated chairs, bathrooms and outlets for charging phones. Laundromats running commercial dryers push out significant ambient heat and are often open by 6 in the morning or around the clock. In cities with subway systems like New York, Washington DC and Chicago, underground metro stations trap heat year-round. One man in DC described walking up and down metro escalators all night during the winter of 2021 just to stay warm, because his motivation to keep warm was stronger than how tired he felt. Fast food restaurants opening at 5 or 6 in the morning become de facto warming stations. A $1 coffee buys an hour in a heated seat. Hospital emergency room waiting areas are heated, open 24 hours a day, and cannot turn anyone away. Experienced rough sleepers in Portland described feeling stored heat radiating up from concrete sidewalks and south-facing brick building walls, warmth absorbed from the previous day's sun that lingers into the early morning hours. If you're learning something from this, consider subscribing. We cover survival topics like this every week and it helps us keep making them. Libraries, laundromats, subway stations, fast food lobbies all provide heat. But none of them are designed for someone who just survived a freezing night. For that, some cities have built something specific. Warming centres are short-term emergency shelters activated when temperatures or wind chill become dangerously cold. Chicago designates over 270 Park District facilities, libraries, police stations and senior centres as warming centres when temperatures hit 32 degrees Fahrenheit or below. Baltimore activates its Code Blue Extreme Cold program when wind chill drops below 13 degrees Fahrenheit, opening additional shelters from mid-November through mid-March. Mobile outreach teams drive through city streets distributing coats, sleeping bags, gloves, boots and hand warmers directly to people on the sidewalk, but the math does not always work. In Washington, D.C., the 2024 point-in-time study counted 3,960 people experiencing homelessness against only 1,778 available hypothermia shelter beds. Nationally, homelessness increased over 18% from 2023 to 2024, stretching winter infrastructure thinner every year. For the thousands of people warming centres cannot reach, survival depends on tricks passed between rough sleepers that never appear in any guidebook. A $2 bottle of rubbing alcohol in an empty aluminum can. Pour the alcohol in, drop a piece of tissue paper inside and light it. The alcohol burns relatively clean and raises the ambient temperature inside a tent or small enclosed space for hours. Jason Everly, a vendor interviewed by Street Roots in Portland, described this as one of the most common warming hacks on the street. He also described collecting partially used sterno cans from hotel and restaurant dumpsters, combining the leftover chafing fuel into one full can that burns for roughly 4 hours. Some food carts that cook with mesquite charcoal throw away the smaller pieces and dust, which rough sleepers collect in metal containers as a long-lasting portable heat source. But the single most important cold weather habit, according to nearly every experienced rough sleeper, is simpler than any of that. Cardboard under the body. Ground conduction pulls heat out of a sleeping person faster than cold air does, and a few layers of cardboard create a barrier of trapped dead air that dramatically slows the loss. And when all else fails, movement. Many rough sleepers describe working all night on canning runs, collecting recyclable bottles in the pre-dawn dark, keeping their body temperature up through continuous walking until shelters and warming spots open in the morning. Every one of these methods works, but everyone carries risk. Burning alcohol or sterno inside an enclosed tent creates carbon monoxide. Jason described catching himself on fire after falling asleep near his improvised stove when his leg drifted toward the flame. Rapid rewarming of frost-bitten fingers risks severe tissue damage if the area refreezes later, which is common when someone returns to the cold after briefly warming up. And the most dangerous mistake is also the most understandable. When shivering stops, a lot of people feel relief, but medically it means the body's last heating mechanism has failed. At that point, without outside warmth, core temperature drops toward the threshold where organs begin to shut down. In Los Angeles County alone, at least 14 unhoused people froze to death in a single year. Every morning after a freezing night, the same routine plays out across every cold city in the country. Get up before sunrise when body temperature hits its lowest point. Move immediately, find something hot to drink, eat whatever calories are available. Get indoors somewhere heated. Rewarm hands and feet slowly from the core outward, dry any damp clothing, repack your gear, and start thinking about where you will sleep tonight. The total cost of a rough sleeper's daily winter warming toolkit is somewhere between $1 and $3. A cup of coffee, a pair of hand warmers, maybe a bottle of rubbing alcohol that lasts a week. That is the budget for keeping yourself alive until spring. And this cycle from frozen to functional and back again repeats every single day for months. Not because anyone chooses it, but because the alternative is not waking up at all. If you want to see how else people survive on the street with almost nothing, that video is on screen right now.